When you're doing something, and trust me, I know, when you're doing something innovative, which I would say you guys are the most innovative group since Milwaukee. Innovation is a really interesting thing because nothing changes without it, and including like evolution, like nothing evolves without innovation. But inherently, the innovation means everyone else is doing something different, and the response isn't always positive to that. So my question is, number one, how did you guys just like notice like, oh, this is going to be the way we want to do this? And B, as everybody's like, but they're not doing it the way the Milwaukee team was doing it, so thus they're wrong. How do you deal with the whole field? Because as you're innovating, you're inherently doing what's different, something different from everybody else. And they eventually had to catch up to you, which I think ultimately did happen, but it wasn't immediate. So how did you make the evolution? And then how do you deal with the pressures of, but you should be doing it like everybody else? Mm-hmm.
I remember you coming out of that workshop and just saying about Harvey, how Harvey was just, you were absolutely knocked sideways by it.
It's absolutely true. Harvey, honestly, we've become very close over the years and we joke around and all that, but I was amazed at your strength in Austin. I was genuinely like, I want to be that strong, because everybody in the room was basically saying, if you're not asking the miracle question, you're not doing solution focused. And I'm sitting there thinking, Harvey is going to have to buckle to this pressure. Because it was literally, 35-1 or whatever it was. And you were sitting, the room was kind of like a theater style room, kind of like a horseshoe. It went up, it was at a major university, and the two lecturers are in the front, and Harvey was like right in the front of that U. And I'm like, but you had such conviction in what you were saying.
Yeah. But I think also you said about the three of us, and I think that is such a key thing for me. The fact that where I've had the confidence to speak as I might have done in that presentation, without knowing I'm part of a group that we've worked on, honed this together. And it was interesting because in the NHS clinic that we worked in, we had to literally hone it together because other people there were not only not interested, some were anti. So there was a sense in which, we're putting ourselves out there, we're going to say we're going to try this and we want to prove that it can work. And if it doesn't work, we'll do something else. But having that backing, knowing I'm part of a team, I've always found, that's probably why I like team sports like soccer so much. So I think that was a part of it and so Chris, who first used the term best hopes, and it was just something, well, that's interesting, let's have a think about that. Because we would try out different things. We could do that in the safety of the group. We weren't sort of sold, we must do it one way and one way only. We can try out different things. And we got very curious about this. Surely this is in line with what Solution Focus or the Shades has been saying all along, that it's about the outcome that people want. What was it Steve said one time? The client is a different person after the miracle question than they were before it, which is a extraordinary statement, sort of linguistic philosophy or whatever. I thought, wow, this is in line with that. This is about starting the future.
And then there was Putting Difference to Work, Steve's book, Putting Difference to Work, where he talks about trying to get rid of the problem in solution-focused brief therapy. And he can't do it. He says, I can't do it, so what I'm doing, every time I use the word problem, I'm putting a line through it, which is very irritating to kind of read. But it did fit, because you'd never use any problem information other than to get to exceptions. And once you got the exceptions, you'd never touch the problem again. So we were interested, not as a sort of background interest in how can we get the problem out of a solution focus. We didn't sit down and think, oh, how can we do this? It was just a question that was around. And I remember that client from a secure hospital.
Yes.
He was said he suffered. He came with 2 guards, and I was trying to get connected to him, and he spoke in a very flat voice until he said, "Yeah, and I'm paranoid." And I said, "Oh, how come you're not paranoid now? How do you know I'm not? But there was some, I can't remember exactly what it was. One of the questions we started to ask, and Steve would ask it as well, what needs to happen for this to be useful to you? And what the question led people to do is talk about what they needed to talk about.
Right.
It was a question that led people to say what they thought needed to happen in the session. And I remember this guy was asking it, and somehow there was a jump from what needs to happen in the session to an outcome. He gave an outcome answer. And I remember thinking, it's not what needs to happen. We shouldn't be asking what needs to happen if it's useful to you. You need to find something what needs to happen in your life that has to be useful to you. So we made that jump, and somehow, what do you hope from this would be an obvious way to ask that. And we probably were using that long before we noticed that we were using it.
Yeah, but that also connected with why, by the time in Austin 2008, whatever, we were tending not to use the miracle question almost at all, because once you start with the best hopes in terms of differences in your life as a result of coming here, and whatever the client says, I'll be happy or I'll be at peace or this or that, and then you don't need to say, so something a miracle happened, you got there. You just say, okay, and what would that look like tomorrow in your life? And you just build up a picture. So the miracle question dropped out of most of our practice, not completely, it's still got its useful place here and there. I think by 2008, saying to people, we don't think the miracle question is essential to solution. What?
Yeah, I mean,
partly because we were the miracle question is something people remember.
Yes.
And we just thought better if you can do with your therapy more invisibly, so that the client's not remembering your questions, they're more remembering your answers. And what are your best hopes? And this is a very easy or ordinary question. I mean, people, you hear it talking about football, you hear it on the radio. Well, what are your best hopes for tomorrow's match, John? He says, oh, well, John, obviously we're hoping to win, but we've got and your best hopes for the championship? Oh, well, John, so it's there all the time, this idea of what you hope for.
Yeah.
So you raised the question of what about people who don't get that or are opposed to that way of starting?
Yeah, it was
something which goes on through to today. I mean, that doesn't go away. People assume you have to start with something about the reason the client is there, the problem. And so they say, that's not the way to start. You've got to, you start the session with what your best hopes are, and you put on a video, and there's somebody, one of us maybe, well, actually, Chris will be asking the best hopes question before you've even sat down.
He's not even in the frame. He's literally not on camera. You hear, this would drive, my camera team nuts.
As well.
Because there are multiple...
Press the record button.
There are multiple times you can't hear the most important question because he's closing the door. So as the doors go, he's saying, what are your best hopes for talking?
Yeah. And you've got people who just cannot, because it's so far removed. And we were talking about this the other day when we met in California, that recently on the internet list, the Internet Solution Focus Forum, big names in the solution focus world are saying, no, not starting with the best hopes question, it's too optimistic. And then somebody else said, no, I start with, well, what's bringing you here now? And I just think, why? I mean, if you're a proponent of solution focus, why do you feel you still have to start with that? Now, though, we've done most of our work and teaching has been in the public sphere, so people are very worried, preoccupied with safety. So if somebody, a nurse, a social worker, says, I have to start with some sort of hearing about problems because I've got to think about safety, well, that's a different category in a sense. Maybe I might say they overdo it sometimes, but I can see the rationale. But in regular day-to-day work, why people feel they've got to start with what brings you here now, which was what Steve DeShazer liked to ask. That was still his favourite question towards the end, despite how will you know this is useful to you? Still want to know what brought people in.
Yeah,
they still want that.
It was just such a. Your work has always made sense to me, which is why I gravitated towards it. But that moment was a very profound moment. I knew it was profound in the moment, but over the years, it gained significance, I guess. because I remember when you guys did your keynote and Chris showed a video, and then after the video takes questions, a man named Joel was like, "What, any questions?" And Joel said, "I don't recognize that as solution focused." And Chris said, "Why not?" He said, "You didn't ask the miracle question." And there were people around me that were like, "Yeah, yeah." And I was like, "No, but they did." It wasn't like they didn't ask the miracle question and did like a backflip. Like, it wasn't like he did something random. Like they did something else that is congruent to what we do, and it just floored me. It absolutely floored me.